Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. On behalf of Hillerick and Bradsby Company and the Hillerick family, welcome. Welcome to Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory's 2019 Living Legend Award ceremony. It's our 12th year bestowing this award, and past honorees include Hank Aaron, Ken Griffey Jr., and Cal Ripken. Tonight, Mike Schmidt joins our Living Legend lineup. Yes. We are delighted to have the greatest third baseman of all time here tonight, along with his guest, Warren Green. Our Living Legend Award honors a person whose career in baseball and life outside the sport have taken on legendary qualities because of his talents, achievements, and personal conduct. Mike Schmidt certainly checks all those boxes in big ways. Now, those of us who love this sport, we know baseball has a lot of unwritten rules. Don't talk about a no-hitter in progress, right? Don't watch your home run. Don't stand there and admire it as it sails out of the stadium, and many more. Well, our Living Legend Award has one unwritten rule. Anyone who receives this award probably had a contract with us. And even if they didn't have a contract with us, they certainly did not have a contract with anyone else. Well, there are exceptions to every rule, even the unwritten ones. And in the case of tonight's honoree, let's go to some video evidence. Keep your eye on the bat with the red ring.
We asked Mike Schmidt to help us show you why the new half-ton Chevy work truck is better than Ford, with more two-sided galvanized steel, more standard power, and
what? And we're good. I bet even up there on the balcony, you can see that Louisville Slugger logo there, right? Yes, very nice, very nice. So, Mike, we have bats here that Babe Ruth used, and Hank Aaron, Joe DiMaggio, and when I get asked about my favorite bats in our collection and on display here, I always include yours. I always do. I'll let you tell the story about what's happening here with this bat, but we love it. We love it. Yes. So this event is also the preview party for our 16th annual live auction with Hunt Auctions. Sweet 16, David, right? Oh, man. Well, they've surrounded us once again with their astounding baseball history and memorabilia. And Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory is pretty picky when it comes to choosing our partners, so it really does say a lot that we have been with Hunt for so long and become such good friends with them. They are the best in the business. Dave Hunt also happens to be a die-hard, lifelong Phillies fan. Here he is with his kiddos. You're in both those pictures, right? That's you in the costume too with the fanatic. Yeah, you didn't wear it tonight. Oh, okay. All righty. Well, listen, folks, please welcome the president of Hunt Auctions, Dave Hunt.
That was good even for a Yankees fan. That was good. Good evening, everybody. Welcome again to, as Ann said, to the 2019 Louisville Slugger Museum Living Legend Award and Live Auction Week. This has really become. When we started doing this, 2004, which is wild, it really was just an auction event. And it's, as you can see by looking around, it's become so much more by having this great award and all the things we do during the week. But before I begin, I need to know how many of you in this audience are either Philadelphia fans, Philly sports fans, or from Philadelphia. Raise your hands. It just means that I can keep a couple lines in the speech versus having to get them out. But we'll get to that in a minute. It is once again my honor on behalf of all of our staff to take part in the ceremony in yet another exciting auction of baseball history. And for the last 16 years, or in another way of saying it, for Mets fans in the room, the time period since, half of the time period since your last World Series win, I think. Do I have that right? 32 years, half 16? Or we can just do remaining years on Bobby Bonilla's contract. Either way you want to go. I kept that one in for you. But we've been able to call this museum our home away from home. And to thank all the staff here at Louisville Slugger certainly seems not to be enough. Chris, Bailey, this is a long list. Rick, Andrea, Ben, Alex, Natalie, Dina, we're very appreciative of all the assistance that you guys give us, not during just this week, but all throughout the year. Different projects we do. Being involved with you guys is great and certainly productive, and you guys are always a great help. To Ann, I've run out of ways to say thank you. It's 16 years, so I can't come up with anything new, but you've been an incredible guiding force here at this museum, which is really a world-class museum. You guys have traveled to a lot of sports museums. A wonderful business associate, and also a great personal friend, so thank you, for sure. And to John Hillick and his family, it just continues to be an honor to be afforded the privilege of really associating our company name with one of the greatest names in American sports history, really. So just a great privilege that we feel deeply appreciative. I also want to take a minute to take our staff. We have a big staff. A lot of them are here. They do an incredible job. As you guys can imagine, this is a very intense event. We do things at the Super Bowl, Major League Baseball's All-Star Game, and this is the one we all look forward to. It's a lot of fun. Everybody makes us feel at home, and it's great. And everybody can take a moment just to give, for both Louisville Slugger staff, Hunt Auction staff, a really nice warm thank you. Really appreciate it. So this is a special year for me to be involved with this award. As Ann said, this has previously been bestowed to some of the greatest players in the history of the game. Hank Aaron, Ken Griffey Jr., it's amazing. Frank Robinson, just on and on. None of them, however, played for my team in Philadelphia. So growing up and playing baseball in the Philadelphia area is really simple. It's a simple recipe when you're a kid. When the Little League jerseys were handed out, there's an entirely legitimate fist fight for 2 numbers. Simple. If you're a pretty big kid with some fast hands, you can usually get away with number 32. You got to be quick, but you can usually get it. If you wanted number 20, you had to be willing to go to the mat. And I mean literally, to the point where I remember, I'm not making this up, a couple of kids getting hurt and couldn't play in the first game because they had your number. That's a true story. I'm not making that up. But nobody meant more to Phillies fans during that time period than number 20, Mike Schmidt. Steve Carlton, Pete Rose, Larry Boa, Tug McGraw. Many others are beloved in that city, but there was only one Mike Schmidt. We would all imitate that classic powerful swing, confident home run trot. Even after hitting a tennis ball, a baseball, or anything else we could launch over the neighbor's roof with our Easton metal bats. I mean Louisville. I'm sorry, Ann. I'm sorry. But they were Easton. They were cheap, and that's all we had. It's a true story. But before I continue, there is a very special message from one of those teammates I just mentioned that wanted to send this along to you. I give you this.
Hey, Mike, congratulations on the Louisville Slugger Hitters Hall of Fame induction. It's an honor you well deserve. Looking back on my career, I was very fortunate to play alongside you my entire career with the Phillies. 1980 was a special year for both of us, but especially for you. That big home run you hit against the Montreal Expos vaulted the Phillies into the playoffs, eventually beating the Houston Astros, and of course, the rest is history, winning the World Series against the Kansas City Royals. And again, you were the most valuable player in the World Series. So this is an honor you definitely deserve. Enjoy this.
So Mike's career statistics don't need to be repeated. We all know how incredible they are. The thing that made Mike so special for us in Philadelphia was when the spotlight was on him and it was the most bright he showed up. and he gave it all he had. And that's really what most matters to Philly fans, as most of you in this room know. During the magical 80s season, Mike carried the team at so many crucial moments, many which aren't talked about a lot, including early in the season wins, and ended up being very important. As Mike will tell you, the Cardiac Kids won game. One game's what got you the NL East that year. I also want to definitely personally thank Mike very deeply for completely 100% owning the New York Mets. It's very meaningful to me personally, and I'm not joking about that whatsoever. There's nothing better than beating any team from New York, but a shellacking of the Mets is a whole different type of special. I mean, it is.
God, you Philly fans!
You said we could honor him this year, so this is the way it goes. I'm totally kidding. Additionally, I think it's really important to recognize Mike's devotion to causes and projects to help others. Although he's always been known in our area to be a private person, that didn't mean he wasn't always getting involved to help those around him, especially whether it be teammates, charities, whatever it may be. He's become very heavily involved in the fight against skin cancer. And I'd like to take a very minute to give him a very, very healthy thank you for doing that to help baseball fans all over the country. Thank you. Very meaningful. In closing, I've been really fortunate to meet and work with some of the greatest names in really the history of the game, whether it's families of them, just dealing with Babe Ruth's relatives this year, great players. But from fighting for that Little League jersey number 20, which still hurts a little bit because I didn't always get it, but coming to be able to take part in this presentation to one of my baseball idols is without question one of the great honors I've had in my life. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Mike.
And a big thank you to Larry Boa for taking the time to record that. I know he would have loved to have been here tonight, but yes. All right. Well, as part of our living legend tradition here, we commissioned an original poem celebrating our honoree. And Louisville Slugger Museum and Factories Poet Laureate Mike Shannon. I'm going to give a wave to the crowd there, Mike. Yes. He has written another really marvelous tribute here tonight. So, what is it that makes Mike Schmidt a living legend? Let's watch.
It started long ago, the fire inside that kept a calling mother at the door. One more at bat, one more, you'd cry to stall the dark at Ridgecrest Park. That flame burned brighter as Graham stitched tighter the first baseball uni you wore, a suit endowed with hustle in honor of the player you both adored. Big league scouts got a fair view of your clouts, but busted knees and strikeouts clouded the vision of them all except one cagey fellow, the sagacious Lucadello, who remained watching from rooftops and the trees. When it was time to leave behind old Dayton haunts like your dad's drive-in, you sprinted east to Athens to walk on for Bobcat coach Bob Ram. After conference firsts, the series berth, and a spot on the All-American team, you proved your worth and in the draft fulfilled your childhood dream. In your Bush League stint before the stash, you made progress true and steady. But your rookie year in last place showed the Phillies still weren't ready. Regardless, Danny O and Owens knew there was nothing much to lose, so they backed you against the Bluebirds while you gamely paid your dues. Their faith paid off the next year, when you had the first of 12 all-star seasons. And suddenly jaded fans in Philly for hope and charity had reason. You found Donna W., a blessed treasure of a wife. But something still was missing till you asked the Lord to guide your life. Year after year, with Mitt and Slugger, you set a torrid pace, yet the hated Reds and Dodgers always edged you in the race. Until the winning recipe, compliments a la Rose, helped you, Boone, Tug, and Gary end the city's October woes. Your third MVP in '86 and your 500th the following year punched your ticket for Hall of Fame honors and capped off a brilliant career. Mike, you left with much to be proud of, but nothing more important than this. Every time you stepped on the diamond, you played for a higher purpose.
Let's hear it for our 2019 Living Legend, Mike Schmidt. Please come on up, Mike. Thank you. Thank you.
So nice. Thank you, dear.
Congratulations.
Thank you, David. Very nice. Well, I have a ring to wear now. Can I try that on? Ladies and gentlemen, isn't that beautiful? Thank you. I didn't know I was receiving this.
Here you go.
That's why I brought these notes. All right, I will try it on. Well, I got to take my wedding ring off. Well, I know it won't fit over there. I had a surgery on my left hand recently, and I don't think the ring will fit, but we'll work on it. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And Mike Shannon, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, and whoever supplied the pictures for that. Again, I thank them as well. And David, nice job. I didn't know you were that strong in Philly. My God, I do now. That was very nice, everything you said and did. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out for this thing. It's quite an honor for me, after 30 years of retirement, to have been mentioned back in terms of baseball, especially hitting a baseball. I've spent those 30 years around the game, thinking about hitting, thinking about how I hit the baseball when I played, thinking about today's hitters, and hitting a baseball has always been a big part of my life. And of course, if hitting has been a big part of your life, this guy right here, not the one with the red ring, but this guy right here, the Louisville Slugger by Hillerich and Bradsby, is right in the middle of it. I know that probably all of us in the room here right now, at some point in time, had a baseball bat in our hands, most likely a Louisville Slugger. I'll never forget, as a young man in Dayton, Ohio, when I was growing up, and Dad took me down to the big city. In Dayton, we lived just outside of the city, and he'd take me to Tuffy Brooks Sporting Goods store, and first thing I'd do would be walk up to that rack that had the Louisville Sluggers on it. They had 35, 34, 33 on the bottom, and they may have one of the famous players of the day in that time written on the end of it, and all we wanted to do was get the bat that had our favorite player in the major leagues autograph on it. And I'll never forget my trip with Louisville Slugger over time. I used a K55 bat in college at the time, a Chuck Klein model. I didn't know it was a Chuck Klein model. Again, Chuck Klein, one of the greatest hitters in Philadelphia Phillies history. And it had Mickey Mantle on the bat, but now I know the K55 was the Chuck Klein model. I made some notes here. I found out that the R43 was the Babe Ruth model. I know Derek Jeter and Ripken and Robin Yount all used the P72 most of their career. The Musial bat was the 159. Mickey Mantle, the M110. It's amazing how many great players over the years, if not all of the great players at some point in time over the years, have used the Louisville Slugger. Speaking of the bats, I was having a nice chat with one of the Hillerich family downstairs a little while ago, and we were talking about some of the things we used to do with our bats. Things that came up to my mind where we used to bone our bats. There was this big ham bone nailed to a piece of wood in the clubhouse, and we used to take our bats and bone them. Obviously, we sanded them at the end of our career. Pete Rose taught me how to sand my bat, so I kept sandpaper in my locker all the time. We sanded them. We obviously used pine tar. Used pine tar and rosin sometimes. After the season was over, I'd take a couple dozen bats and mix pine tar and rosin together and rub it all over the end and then wipe it off, and it seemed to make the grain harder. Use tape on the bat for sure. You've seen how many different ways batters tape their bats nowadays. Some strange guys that like to cheat a little bit, even corked bats, drill a hole in the end and put some cork in the end of the bats. We had them cupped. I saw downstairs earlier this afternoon how they cupped the bats, the lathe they used to put the cup at the end of the bat, which takes a couple of ounces out of the bat. We make axe handle bats, as a lot of you know. They make a bat now with a knob on it, just like an axe handle, so it keeps you from getting the callus in your hand, and it allows you to hit a ball a little bit like swinging an axe. We make them in hickory, ash, flame treated. I got to tell you, there's so many things I know about a bat. I even slept with my bat a lot of times. When that bat was treating me well, sometimes I'd take it to bed and lay it next to me. Bats get thrown in the stands too. You know, bats get let go at home plate, and they get, helicoptered up in the stands. You never see them again once they're thrown in the stands. They're used to pound your spikes, pound the mud out of your spikes. Just so many things. They get autographed. I mean, I've autographed hundreds of thousands of bats in my day. Baseball bats, such an important item in our sport. And we're right here in Louisville. It's like a baseball heaven, if you will. I spent the entire day around here, and I had no idea this museum was here. I had no idea the factory was as cool as it was downstairs. And I hope all of you get a chance and I'm sure most of you have spent time in the museum here and been down in the factory. If you haven't, please take a walk around that. It's just it's so interesting how they build the bats now, and they have them in all kind of different material that they make bats out of. The bat industry is so much different nowadays than it was when I played. I mean, there was this company right here, and I'll tell you that story in a second and how that all happened in my career. But they're making in maple. Maple being what seems to me to be the hardest of all the woods that bats are made out of. There's 25 companies that make bats nowadays. Very, very competitive industry making of baseball bats. But Louisville Slugger and Hillerich-Bradsby are still right in the middle of it, and I would challenge any of the other companies in the sport today to be able to put together an event like you have for me here tonight. So classy. Met so many nice people here today, and the Hillerich family, you're all great people. I love talking to you today. This bat, and you had a lot of nerve bringing this up here. Well, this bat's what they call a P89. Love that model bat. Bat I used early in my career. When I went to Reading, Pennsylvania in my first year in the minor league baseball, in professional baseball, I walked in the clubhouse at Reading, Pennsylvania, and on my stool was a contract from this company called Adirondack. I never heard of them, but it was a contract laying there, and didn't have lawyers or people that represent us at the time. And I opened up that little letter, and in there was a contract that said, sign this and we'll give you a free set. We'll give you a set of Tony Penna golf clubs. Now that's pretty special. Free set of golf clubs. So there I go. I signed my name on that contract and licked the envelope and put it in the mail and sent it back, and I was signed for life with Adirondack. All I got over the whole course of my life in baseball was a free set of Tony Penna golf clubs. I have no idea where those things are. I should have just not signed that and come seeing you people. Right? Well, actually, I should have waited maybe 3 or 4 years and then come and see you people. But so that's where this bat came about. That's where this ring came about. I went through a little stage where I was kind of aware of branding, I guess you could say. I was a little cognizant of the red line on the bat, and I thought I would take my favorite Louisville Slugger bat and put a red line on it. I'm guilty. Not something that I would do today. I'd know better, but you know, back then we didn't so much know better, and I'm sure you had the legal recourse if you wanted to take it with me, and that's the story on that bat. I'm glad Ann likes it. Anyway, I used so many Louisville Sluggers in my day, and I would say I probably used as many, if not more, than the old, there you go, and the old company that gave me a free set of clubs. So that's the story on that thing. Well, let's see. Again, before we get to some questions, and I'm sure if we get into enough questions, we'll be here for a long time tonight, and that's fine with me. But again, I think this is very special. It's a great honor. I could sit there all night and watch myself play ball, but I don't like to watch my haircuts and and the outfits I got on. Can you believe some of the stuff we did back then? I mean, I already told you one story right here, but the hair. Imagine, look at the hair right there. That's me about 5 years ago, but you know, the permanence, how about the hair we used to have, and the beards, and you know, sometimes I look at today's players and I go, what are they doing? They got tattoos all over their body and their arms, and look at how about some of the hair they got down there, all the way down their back, some of these pictures. And you know, you show me a video like that, and I'm just as guilty as they are. You know, and every generation has its thing, right? We all have our thing. And one thing baseball players have in our clubhouses between, you know, when we get to the ballpark, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and batting practice starts at 4:35. We get there. Now they get there at noon because they have cafeterias in the locker rooms. They have chefs, and they cook them, you know, great meals, very healthy foods, and they also have the same thing after the game. So most guys get there now more like 1:30. And they also have TVs, giant TV screens with movies, videos. They have pool tables, ping pong tables, just about anything you'd want if you were a spoiled young kid playing Major League Baseball. And what the heck was I talking about? Oh, yeah, baseball players have time. See, I turned 70 about a month ago, and you just can't find that word every now and then that you're looking for. You lose your train of thought. So we have time, and there's, you know, the area of the restroom where you'd shower, and there's mirrors, and guys say, you know, I think I'm going to grow a beard. Or I think I'm going to cut my hair. I'm going to shave my head. That's what they do. That's why you see so many different things going on with players. It's because they have time. You know, what are they going to do? They have time. So we had time, and you know, we experimented with our look all the time, and that's just the way it was. Played in Philly my entire career, 18 years, and you all have to be amazed with that someone could stay in Philly for 18 years. I know I am. You know what I mean. It was tough at times. The wig, you saw the wig. I wore the wig out one night because I was going to be, just tortured by the fans that night. It was about, you know, 4 or 5 days after a game we had one night. We had like 3 or 4 rain delays, and the game ended about 1 in the morning, and there must have been maybe 50, 60 people there. They had all migrated down behind the dugout, and we lost the game, and I had a tough game, 0 for whatever, and they were just booing the hell out of me and the team, and just, you know, throwing stuff, making them. It was like a mob, and that's in fact what I said to one of the writers afterwards. You know, these fans here, they're like a mob. It was like a mob scene out there on the field, and they made that the headlines in the sports section the next day. So we went on the road, went to Montreal, and Tony Kubek, y'all remember Tony Kubek? We were playing the game of the week, and he's sitting in the dugout, and they asked me to do a pregame interview, and he said, Mike, have you seen the headlines around the country? And I said, no, I don't have any idea. I'm up in Montreal. And he said, yeah, it says Schmidt calls Philly fans a mob, which is not what you want to call a Philly fan. So we go back to Philadelphia, and no one during batting practice would get near me, you know, thinking that somebody might be up in the stands. And so we got through batting practice, we went in the locker room, and I'm very, very uneasy about running out on the field. I played first base then, actually, that year, 1985. And we were introduced before the games by position, you know, left fielder so-and-so, center fielder so-and-so, and I played first base. So I'm the last guy introduced, Mike Schmidt, first baseman Mike Schmidt. So we all ran out, we were introduced, and I got a wig from Larry Anderson's. Larry Anderson is a clown on the team at that time. He's an announcer now, but he was a pitcher, and he's a real crazy, funny guy. And he had this, what do they call it, a trunk in his locker full of things he used to wear around the clubhouse. Funny as heck. He had this long wig that you saw, so I put it on, I put my hat on, I put a pair of Porsche sunglasses on, and I said, what do you guys think if I run out on the field with this on? And all of a sudden, I wasn't going to do it, but all of a sudden everybody on the team started daring me to do it. You don't have a hair on your head. You know, if you don't run out there with this on. I got permission from the manager, and when they introduced me, I ran out on the field with that wig on and those sunglasses and the hat, and there was, you know, 35,000 people there were ready to let me have it, and all of a sudden, dead silence. Dead silence, and then they started cheering. And so I diffused the whole night with, you know, coming out of my box a little bit. So that's what that wig thing was all about. But playing in Philadelphia, you know, you gotta come out of the box every now and then, and that's unfortunately one of the things I did not do enough in my career. If I had my career all over again, I would totally have changed my personality, not the way I played the game, but my my sensitivity toward my insecurity and with myself as a player. And I would have, if I could just had then have now what I feel about Philadelphia fans, I'd have been much better off as a player. Too sensitive, way too sensitive as a player to play in Philadelphia. And it worked, in the end it worked, but I did not enjoy the game as much as I should have in Philadelphia. So, but I played there for 18 years. They pushed me, and I went to the Hall of Fame with them, and now I work as a broadcaster in Philadelphia, and I love walking down the streets of Philadelphia. I have wonderful rapport and relationship with Philly fans and the Philly organization, and everything's good with me right now, and especially good being here tonight with all you people and the family from Hillerich and Bradsby, Louisville Slugger. So thank you again for thinking of me for this award. I know there's been some great guys that have gotten this award. To be included with those great players and those great men is a great honor for me. Thank you. And I think, Ann, if we're going to take a few questions.
We've got some questions out here, right? Absolutely. We'll start right here.
I'm going to step out of the box a little bit. Lifelong Philly fan, watched you for 18 years, loved every minute of it, and I appreciate what you did for the city of Philadelphia and for my childhood. But since we're in Louisville, I want to ask you, what was it like in the late 70s? There was an awards banquet in Philly, and you got to sit with Muhammad Ali.
Oh, how'd you know that one?
Yeah, well, I'm a fan. And being Smoking Joe was from Philly, you sitting with Ali was something a little bit caught some people's attention.
Yes.
What was that night like for you, and what was Muhammad Ali like?
Well, first of all, I don't remember much about that night, only that I was sitting next to Muhammad Ali, and the guy had the biggest head and the biggest hands I've ever seen on a human being in my life. Yeah, we chatted. I mean, I have that picture at home, and it's one of my very, very special pictures. You know, it's one of the people I was fortunate enough to meet in my life. He'll go on my all top 10 list of celebrities that I've had a chance to meet because of things like the Philadelphia Sports Writers Banquet. Very special. And did you bring that up because he was born here?
I did.
Everybody knows that, right? The home of Muhammad Ali, his birthplace. He lived in Cherry Hill, actually, close to where I lived during my tenure with the Phillies. His house was well known. People would travel past his house. So was Smokin' Joe's house near White Marsh Country Club in Philadelphia. So yeah, Smokin' Joe and Muhammad Ali were two all-time greats. Yep. But I don't remember our exact exchange of words. I think I was kind of sitting over there. Don't hit me.
All right, we've got another question right over here.
Yeah, Michael Jack, I just want to let you know this T-shirt's from about 1984.
Oh, you got in a fight for that one, huh?
So this has been in my drawer for years and years, and I just, you touched on it. I wanted to thank you. I grew up in Philly, but I live outside of Louisville right now. Mm-hmm. I had to come down and say thank you because you were kind of underrated in Philadelphia for a long time. You know, I think, as you said, as you got older, people appreciated your stats were off the charts. You were just made everything look effortless. I think that's why people in Philadelphia didn't relate because, you know, it's such a blue-collar city.
Yeah, yeah.
You were so graceful and so, you know, everything just came kind of easy to you. And I know you probably did work your butt off, but I think people now realize that, you know, you're probably in the top 10 all-time baseball players, and I just wanted to come down and say thank you.
Well, that's very nice of you to come down, one, and to think of it, yeah, in the terms that I think of it in. You know, there are Philly kind of athletes, and what I mean by that is they love the kind of player like Lenny Dykstra. The guy got dirty as hell every game, and he had tobacco stains all down the front of his jersey from tobacco juice falling out of his mouth. And I want to say the player help me with this, the center fielder that ran into the wall. Aaron Rowan. We had a player, Aaron Ronan, back in 2007, 8, 9-ish, who ran headlong into the center field wall before they put a pad on it and split his head wide open. They carried him off the field in a stretcher, and that cemented him in the minds of Philadelphia sports fans as their kind of guy. Greg Luzinski was their kind of guy. Let's see, Bill Berge, you know, Gary Matthews, Tug McGraw. They love a guy that brings them into it. They love a guy that looks like it's kind of, it's hard for them to play and to play great. I was the exact opposite. And I didn't try to be that way. It was just my nature, the way I played. I mean, I dove for balls. I dove into bases. You know, I did all those things, but they perceived me as the guy where the game kind of came easy to them. It didn't. It did not, but I didn't appear to them to be their kind of guy, which is like they held me to a different kind of standard than they did their kind of guy. And like I said, if I could do it all over again, I'd work like hell to be their kind of guy. You know what I mean? I'd roll around in the dirt or something before I went on the field. But yeah, I appreciate that, and your perception is right on, right on. Well, thank you. They have. I feel wonderful about people in Philadelphia now. I mean, everywhere I go, I'm like, they say things like you just said. So thank you.
We've got one back in the back here, Mike.
Hey, Mike, just want to ask you more of a statement, see how you elaborate on, as you face pitchers in your day that didn't specialize or come out after 100 pitches. Today's pitchers come out, you know, you got a reliever for the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah.
Would that be tougher?
Much tougher. Much tougher. And you can face, you know, we got to face the starter for that extra at bat most of the time. You know, it wasn't just 2 against the starter and then all of a sudden you know, the next two against a guy throwing 98 coming out of the bullpen. And now they're 6'5", 6'4", 6'7", throwing 95 to 100 miles an hour. And I bring the speed up because that's just the way the pitchers pitches are talked about nowadays. He throws this, he throws that, and we always throw a number at you because they can actually measure that number very accurately now, and that makes those last two at-bats in almost every game much harder to succeed at than they were when I played. I mean, I got 3 at-bats against the starter most of the time, and the relievers when I played were, you know, guys either kind of on their way out, on their way down. They were not as good as the starter, so they generally left the starter in. And then toward the end of my career, you know, came along the Goose Gossages and, you know, pitchers who, the Lee Smiths who went into the Hall of Fame last year, guys that specialized in relieving and closing games. And those guys actually did it for 2 innings when I played. So, yeah, hitting, I'm not saying hitting is much harder now. Most pitchers are 4-pitch pitchers now. Most pitchers throw, you know, our average speed when I played was in the high 80s. Pitchers, sink or slider mostly. Now the average speed of pitchers is more like 92, 93, which makes hitting harder. And I'll say one more thing about hitting. I didn't have to hit against the shift. If they'd have put that whole if they'd have put that whole defense on the left side of the field, my batting average, my career batting average, would have been more like 240 instead of 260. I'm not bragging, it was only 260. But if they'd have put the shift on me, it'd have been 240. You know that ground ball between third and short? That's none. That's an out now if they put the shift on me. So no, I think hitting, although people, most old guys like me that played back then probably would not admit to it. They'd probably say, oh, back when I played, the game was a game. Back when I played, it was tough. Now they don't pitch inside. They don't know where the ball's going. It's easy to hit now. Man, they're full of crap. It's much harder to hit now than it was back when I played.
Okay, we got another one back here, deep center field.
Mike, you had made reference earlier about facial hair and everything. I did read recently that you were voted the 5th best mustache in all sports history. With the exception of the obvious Raleigh fingers, who had a better mustache than you?
I'm going to grow that thing back, except it's white and you can't see it. I shaved it off about a year ago. Because of that, you know, it was becoming a pain, and then you couldn't see it anyway. Better than me, mustache. Got to be a few around nowadays, but no one grows mustaches anymore. Everybody's got this crazy looking full beard and shaved head. I don't know what that's about. But that is quite an honor, the 5th of all time mustache.
Okay, over here to your right, Mike.
Hey,
okay,
over here,
over
Mike.
the bar.
Over here, straight ahead. Another person from Dayton, Ohio that spent many a Saturday at Tuffy Brooks. That was the highlight.
You heard of Tuffy Brooks?
Oh, absolutely. We were there all the time. Yeah.
They're still there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I was just wondering, in Mike's poem, it kind of hinted that Pete Rose was one of your heroes growing up. What was it like to finally get Pete on your team?
Well, that was a special time for us. You know, Pete was the heartbeat of the Big Red Machine for so many years there in the mid-'70s, you know, actually from 70 all the way through him coming to us. Playing against Pete was special because he was a different kind of guy. He was very intimidating, obviously very, very good hitter. He was a hard player, tough player, one of the few guys that hit singles, you know, few get on base guys that could actually take over a 3-game series. Simply by getting hits, by letting the ball hit him, by sprinting to first base on a walk, by diving into a base when the throw wasn't coming, or breaking up a double play, making a great play defensively. You know, he did all those things. He actually could take over a series without hitting a home run. We remember the Bud Harrelson play in the postseason where he got in that fight with Bud Harrelson in a playoff game at Shea Stadium. And he literally did that for the Phillies in 1980. I mean, he he almost took over the team going into the National League Championship Series. We had one of the greatest NLCSs in history out there with Houston, and just having him around was the one thing that we missed. And I hope Bryce Harper's that way for the Phillies. Not so much was he this year, but I think he has the potential to be a Pete Rose kind of influence on our team going forward. And I love Pete. He came in every day, had something positive to say about me. He started with this best player he's ever played with thing, and it just kind of made my chest stick out, and it made me feel better about myself as a player, and that's how he did. He lifted everybody up on the team. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever see Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. I think we all know about Pete and what he's gone through the last 15, 20 years, and you know, he just hasn't rebounded the way we'd all like to see him. But he's a good friend, and I wish him well. Thanks for bringing him up.
Yeah. Over here, Mike, down closer to the front.
Yeah.
Here you go.
I know you're known for your hitting, but what made you choose your batting stance?
What made me, there's a good one, let me choose my batting stance. Well, like everybody else, like yourself, you probably copied somebody, right? You watch TV, I know you do. You watch ESPN. Who's your batting stance copied after?
I have no idea.
You had to copy somebody. Because everybody.
Mom says Griffey. Mom says Griffey.
Griffey, Ken Griffey Jr. Really? I mean, everybody nowadays has that open stance, you know, where they're kind of left foot's away from home plate. When we played, we used to kind of have a closed stance, you know, where we'd put our left foot as a right-handed hitter kind of toward home plate, and we'd like to stride toward home plate. And you know, when I played, there was more, I want to say, intimidation in the game by pitchers. You know, pitchers would throw one up under your chin a little more often than they do nowadays. Now, don't get me wrong, you get one up under your chin nowadays, but when we played, I mean, I literally had to think about that all the time. You know, getting one under the chin. And you know, pitchers got to make a living too, you know. I mean, if you're hanging out over home plate hitting his best sliders, you know, out of the ballpark in right center, he's got to do a little something to stop that, right? So my stance was kind of built around fear, if you want to. I was always worried about getting one in the neck. No, I copied people. In fact, I did a lot of copying, to tell you the truth. I had my Mark McGwire stance. I had my Dick Allen stance. I had my, who else? Yeah, I had my own stance. But I would change all the time. And you know what? I think players nowadays tend to do a little copying of the best hitter on their team. Make sense? I think if you play for the Washington Nationals, you will see a lot of other hitters on the team kind of take a little something from Rendon, their third baseman. Kind of copy him a little bit. They're around him all the time. He's such a good hitter, and you'll see him kind of do some of the things that he does in the batter's box because they see him have such success. You see a lot of hitters nowadays that kind of hit with a flat bat like that, and they lay their bat back. And we have a hitter on our team named Rhys Hoskins who kind of does that. So everybody kind of picks a little bit of something up here and there. That's how it happens. So you got to watch TV and find your favorite player and pick out your stance. You got to do it soon, too, because you're getting old.
Okay, we have a question here.
Mike, each year I try to ask each of the legends this question, and I flip it for pitchers, but the toughest left and right-handed pitcher for you to hit, and would they be the best lefty and righty you saw during your career? And the third part of that question would be, if you had to start a team today with the greatest player during your career, who would it be?
All right, my best pitcher that I faced, do you mean the one that cost me the most nights sleep?
Well, yeah, that's usually what I ask them. Would that also be the best?
No, there's two different kinds. The one you were scared to death of and the ones you couldn't hit.
Yeah. The one you couldn't hit. Let's go there.
Well, okay. I always go with over the course of my career, and some of us can go way back. And you go to Seaver, and then you go to Gibson, and then you go to Ryan. Tom Seaver, Bob Gibson, Nolan Ryan. And I only caught Seaver toward the end and Gibson toward the end, but I got a lot of Nolan Ryan. And that's a sleepless night, if you want to know the truth. And what we used to do? We used to see the coming pitchers in the paper, who's pitching in the coming games. And if you were going into Houston, you're on a road trip and you're going into Houston, and Ryan pitched for Houston, and you always want to look and see where Ryan is pitching. So if you're going into Houston on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and the previous series that Houston played before we were in there, you hope Ryan pitched the day before. That way, Ryan, you don't get Ryan, you don't get Ryan, you don't get Ryan! You miss him, right? So, there's that kind of pitcher where you literally are affected 4 or 5 games before. Or if you'd see you're going to get him on Saturday, not good. So, yeah, Seaver, Gibson, and Ryan, all a very, very tough pitcher. You get that same answer from a lot of guys like me. Lefties, nobody. Had no problem with any of them, no.
Greatest player you saw?
Well, Rose would be right there. I mean, if I had to start a team, Pete would be right there. Or you could go Johnny Bench and have him as your catcher. Start with the catcher. Or you could go like Randy Johnson, somebody like that, is going to win 20 games. Back in mind, there's Steve Carlton. Give me a Steve Carlton. It depends where you want to start when you're starting a team, Good question. Do one more?
One more? Right back here.
Hey, Mike. I'm just wondering, in this sunrise of your career, who mentored you? And then the sunset of your career, who did you mentor? And then how did you feel about that at the time when you started and when you ended?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there's anything more important than having someone to mentor you and having that be the right person. I had several. As I said, I was, as much as I looked like a cocky guy and played it cool everywhere, I wasn't. I was insecure. I wasn't as confident as I looked. Saying the right things around me was important to me. That was more important to me than someone actually telling me what I was doing wrong as a hitter. Someone helping me mechanically as a player. I was so much better once I went through the stages of my career where Dick Allen befriended me, and he was a great baseball man. As much as you may have heard about Dick Allen, he was a fantastic baseball man, and he spent a lot of time with me talking, and he said things that pumped me up. And then Pete came along, and he did the same thing. And I hit that point where all of a sudden I didn't need anybody to pump me up. I was me, and I found myself amongst the league leaders all the time, and I had a couple MVPs under my belt, and so I didn't need any more confidence. It came because of those mentors early in my career. So that's one thing I wish that today's players were better at, or understand more, and that's the ability. That's mentoring. I wish they would. They're very tough to mentor nowadays. They have their own batting coaches back in their neighborhoods, the same guys that coached them when they were kids, and they make crazy money, and it's just hard to mentor today's players. They're very much stuck in their own ways and their own routines, and that's unfortunate. I think one thing missing in today's game is mentoring. Me, well, there were players on our team that I'm still friends with now. I see all the time, and I know that my knowledge meant a lot to them. You would know the names: Bon Hayes, Glenn Wilson, Chris James, young kids that played on the Phillies teams over the years. So, yeah, I did my share of mentoring, but it was mostly when I was playing the game, not so much after the game. That good? Yes. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll say that, lastly, I'll say again, what a pleasure it was to be here. What a first-class event you've had. And I will put this ring right next to my World Series ring, right next to my Hall of Fame ring, but not next to my wedding ring.
Fair enough.
All right, dear. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mike Schmidt, everybody. That was terrific. Thank you, thank you. So everyone, thanks so much for joining us again here tonight. Can't wait to do it again. We've got the silent auction closing in about 15 minutes, so always some fun little treasures over there. And speaking of treasures, in our store tonight, these beautiful bats, these Phillies bats that Mike just signed moments ago are available in the store, so go check them out. Thanks again, everybody. Have fun. Rest of the night.